Genshin anime when. As we wait for news on it, I decided to draw Genshin Impact characters in anime I like, which for today would be Obey Me, an anime about 7 demon brothers based on the 7 deadly sins. It's rather funny to me, so I was looking forward to this for a longer time. Hi, I'm May, and today I'll talk about what scenes I drew, what Genshin characters in, while showing you the process of drawing these illustrations. Let's start with the first one. In this scene, Barbatos tells Diavolo, "My lord, we have other matters to attend to," and when it came to Master, I had to think about Toma and Ayato, so I drew them here. Diavolo is the lord of the underworld, the demon lord, and Barbatos is his servant. At some point they also travel to the human world, and there Barbatos takes on the role of a tea maker, which I found kinda nice as well. I imagine he's very good at taking care of the house, which fits to Toma. Diavolo is a bit more friendly and good-willed than Ayato to me, even though he's the lord of the underworld, which is kinda funny to me. Ayato can be more ruthless and cold to me. In this scene, Leviathan, one of the 7 demon brothers, shows Diavolo and some other people in the Obey Me world the magical girl anime he likes. The others leave and Diavolo and Barbatos do so as well. There is a continuation to this scene which I'll come back to later on. Next is a scene where Lucifer says, "I'm going to do to you what you did to my ship," while being very angry. When the ship was mentioned here, I immediately had to think about Beidou, so I drew her here. Personality-wise, both of them are also very similar. Both of them also have primarily red, black and white colors in their designs. The next scene is the continuation of the scene I talked about first. It's Diavolo bursting into Leviathan's room in a Ruri-chan cosplay saying "Ruri Hana, Ruru Ruri," and Leviathan reacts to this on the right. He is obviously surprised, as it may seem out of character for Diavolo, but as it turns out he really liked the anime as Leviathan, the one who showed the others the scene I drew Freminet here. This fit really nicely to me, as Leviathan is a rather reclusive person who doesn't like to socialize. He also likes water a lot and is good at crafting things, just like Freminet. Next is a scene in which Mammon tells Asmodeus "Busted, pay up," and here I drew Child for Mammon and Laini for Asmodeus. I imagined Child as a richer character using every opportunity to get some money, while Laini as Trickster could get into a situation where Child tricks him into paying money. Or do you think it would work better the other way around? Child and Mammon just kind of remind me of each other, as well as Lini and Asmodeus. In the scene, the demon brothers say I miss them often as the MC in the game has gone away. Then Mammon comes up with a threat saying when someone says I miss them again, has to pay him 1000 grim for this. At some point Asmodeus gives in and accidentally says I miss them, and this is Mammon's reaction. Next is a scene from the same episode in which Mammon says nothing beats some good food and vintage demonus. Here I drew Venti, who loves a good wine and probably also some good food. I was also thinking about Zhongli as he loves his Osmanthus wine, but personality-wise, Venti fit better to me here, being more outgoing. Scene-wise, as mentioned, this followed the redraw before, after Mammon has gained a lot of money from, slight spoiler here, not people saying I miss them, but from selling plushies that are called I miss them, which you are allowed to say as it's the name of the plushies and not the term I miss them. After this, we have a scene in which Beelzebub gives Belphegor ice cream. He says, "Here, want one?" To which Belphegor responds, "Being here alone calms me down." The ice cream looks a lot like Chongyun's ice cream in Genshin Impact, so I drew him here. Then I at first wanted to draw Xingqiu, since it would just fit nicely that Chongyun would offer him ice cream. Belphegor also has a book which fits, but then I drew Freminet, because the quote also fit for him, and well, since Beelzebub and Belphegor are brothers, I found this a bit weird at first, as I ship Chongyun and Xingqiu, while I don't ship Beel and Belfi. They're brothers after all. That's why I first was hesitant here, since when it's Beel and Belfi this would be a friendly interaction between siblings, whereas for Chongyun and Xingqiu it could be a slightly romantic interaction, but I then thought, well, depending on the characters, it's fine that the context can change a bit for the scene. Basically, it's not like I ship Beel and Belfi because I ship Chongyun and Xingqiu, who I drew in instead of them. You can also keep this in mind for future scenes here. I don't ship the Obey Me brothers, but for Genshin characters there are some I ship. I even drew a similar scene where Chongyun offered Xingqiu ice cream back when I drew Genshin Impact characters into Ensemble Stars anime scenes a while ago. The next scene is Asmodeus saying, "Oh, I wish I had more confidence." Here I drew Kaveh as Asmodeus, who just really remind me of one another. Also, this scene takes place in a dream of Belphegor, where everything is pretty much the opposite. Asmodeus, for example, is very confident usually, but here he appears very insecure. So what makes Kaveh a bit different from Asmodeus here would be that he genuinely can be more insecure. Both Kaveh and Asmodeus value beauty highly to me. In the next scene, Kaveh will make an appearance as Asmodeus again. Here we have Mammon, Asmo, Leviathan and Beelzebub playing a game of cards. Mammon says, "Who would have thought a game of cards would get that heated, huh?" And fitting to Asmo being Kaveh here, I drew in the other Sumeru boys playing cards. Al-Haytham as Leviathan, Sainu as Mammon and Tignari as Beelzebub. I can see Sainu being very involved in the game, which is why he would fit to Mammon to me here. Asmo being very dramatic would then definitely fit to Kaveh to me here. Leviathan is more emotional than Al-Haytham to me, but Leviathan as Al-Haytham fits because of the headphones. Also, Leviathan likes being alone in his room a lot, which also aligns with Al-Haytham. Beelzebub as Tignari then fits as well, since Beel is rather calm. Tignari is more logical than Beel, but still out of the characters here, I would say Beel fits the most to Tignari. Moving on to the next scene, in which Mammon, who in this episode switched bodies with a dog, goes to Lucifer, who then says, "Begging for money as always, huh?" Here I drew characters that kinda don't fit to the characters that much personality, but instead interaction-wise, Zhongli for Mammon and Child for Lucifer. I found the idea of Zhongli begging Child for money kinda funny here, and yeah, in the episode what is funny as well is how the dog firstly acts, kinda similar to Mammon but nicer and more obedient, and the brothers actually prefer this Mammon over the real one. The real Mammon watches all of this from the sidelines as a dog. Next is a scene that is in Belphegor's dream mentioned for the Asmodeus scene before again. Belphegor says, "Don't crowd around like that," and a person that doesn't like to be around too many people would be Fremine, so I drew him here. As mentioned for the dream, it's kind of the opposite to the real life of Belphegor, which is why here he kind of takes on Lucifer's role as big brother, helping everyone and being responsible for everything. At first it feels great to him, getting to stand in the spotlight as kind of a hero like this, but here he comes to the realization that he doesn't like having that much responsibility, that it can be stressful. He's also the avatar of sloth. After all, he gets woken up from this dream by Lucifer, who asks him if he was sleeping all day again, and realizes being the youngest brother and being taken care of is actually something he likes. In the next scene, Leviathan talks to Henry, his snake. He says they were having a field day at Red, but I wasn't up for that. Red is short for the Royal Academy of Diavolo, which is the name of the school the demon brothers go to, and both Leviathan talking to a snake as well as him saying he's not up for the field day really fit to Baiju to me. He has his snake and he is a bit sick and has to look out for his health. For Leviathan, he says he's not feeling up for it because he prefers staying in his room, as he is very introverted and likes to, for example, play video games instead. The reason why Leviathan and Baiju would not go to the field day would be different, but the quote here would still fit to both of them. Having a snake is what fits to both of them as well. Next is a scene where Beelzebub is in kind of a dream. It's more like a daydream. He's with this burger and they are on a boat. Beel is optimistic, saying, "At this rate, we'll find land in no time." The burger also cheers him on, saying, "That's it, Beel," afterwards. And here, since we have someone on a boat, I drew a character that would be with Beidou on her ship, Kazuha. Personality-wise, both are rather relaxed and want the best for those around them. It's interesting that both twin brothers, Beelzebub and Belphegor, have a episode where they dream in the anime. The next scene is a detective, Satan one. First Asmodeus says, "I'm not a great detective though, so I wouldn't know." Then Satan pops up with his inner thoughts being, and Asmo has the guts to lie directly to my face. As for the characters who I could see filling in these roles, it would be Kaeya for Asmodeus and Diluc for Satan. I just thought Kaeya intentionally kind of pranking Diluc would be funny. Diluc as a detective also kind of fits to him being the Dark Knight hero. Kaeya as cavalry captain saying he's not a detective to mock Diluc is entertaining. Even though I could see Kaeya being a bit of a detective, which would also make this more sarcastic, fitting to Kaeya's mischievous personality. For the next redraw, this would be a Detective Satan scene as well, and this time he says, "I need a case." Here I actually drew in Heizo as a detective, who really is a detective. As follow-up scene, we then have Belphegor laying on the floor with Satan saying, "Armada." After this, we have a cut to Satan being visibly excited, while Leviathan looks at him puzzled, saying, "Aren't you a little too happy?" For the Belphegor, the murder victim, I drew in Goru, while for Leviathan it would be Kazuha. I wanted to go for Inazuma boys with these scenes, so they both fit in here to me. The next redraw will be a Detective Satan one as well, with Satan saying, "There's no need to worry, I will find the culprit." This scene is actually right after the last one, where Leviathan asked Satan if he isn't a bit too happy about the murder. Then we have a bit of a jump within the episode to a later point, where Satan proudly says, "I solved the mystery with Leviathan in the back." This time I drew Rayophisley as Satan, the detective, and Nouvelette as Leviathan. I can just imagine him trying to impress Nouvelette like this. Rayophisley also kind of fits to Satan to me. He's just less extroverted, while Nouvelette and Leviathan both share their interest in water. The next scene is Asmodeus appearing in different versions of himself in a game he created. The game supposedly is about finding a killer, but you just encounter a lot of Asmodeus in different versions that fit to different tropes. The first one here would be a kind of tsundere student who says, "I suppose we could go on a date now," and here I drew ruthlessly. I just imagined he may fit here in a romantic game. For the second one, we have more of a sporty, active character that says, "We're supposed to have a free throw contest today," and here I drew Ito, who kinda fits this active, sporty type. He has a bit of himbo energy, but then I also thought about another character that could fit here, which to me would be Child. He's more calculative, but I would also be able to see him as sporty character. Who do you think fits better here? For the third character, we'd have a very determined one, the student council president, who says, "What do you think you're doing blocking the almighty school gate?" And fitting into this role would be Nouvellette to me, as order is very important to him. I could just imagine him being the student who makes sure his class does not break rules. The fourth version of Asmodeus here would be a character from a wealthy family that says, "Good day, I would be most pleased if you would come play with me at my manor." Here I drew someone from a royal family in Inazuma Ayato. I could see him show off his position a bit if he was in a game like this. The fifth version of Asmodeus would be this bookworm kind of person saying, "I've come to return the book I borrowed." For this I was unsure which character to draw. When it comes to books, I usually immediately think of Xingqiu, so that's one version I drew. But then I also wanted to think about some other characters that could potentially be bookworms or just very invested in studying in school. For one, I drew Zhongli here as well. He knows a lot, so I could see him reading a lot during his school days. As the other person, I drew someone who also has this knowledge of a lot of things by reading energy to him, which would be Baizhu. I would imagine for Xingqiu, he would mostly read storybooks, Zhongli historical ones, and Baizhu medical and biology books. Which one of these three characters do you think fits best here? And now we have the sixth version of Asmodeus, the role-playing, dark kind of edgy one, saying, "I'm the one who's going to send you to Heaven's Hole." For this, I drew a character fitting to the darkness, Daneslave. I also thought about drawing Diluc, but especially because of the eye patch, I thought Daneslave with his dark mask on one side of his face would fit now that I think about it. Fischl would also really fit here to me, especially with her role-playing tendencies. Which ones of the Asmodeus versions or the Genshin Impact characters I drew here did you like most? Who would you choose in a visual novel game? Let me know in the comments. Time for the next redraw. Here we're going back to the opposite dream episode with Leviathan dancing, saying, "I'm too cheerful, I can't stop dancing." And here I drew a character that actually enjoys dancing a lot, which is Gaming. I find the pink shining kind of background and just brown and yellow colors add to the comedic effect of the scene. The next scene continues with this shiny effect, and here we're going back to all the versions of Asmodeus. Here all of them are lined up and Asmodeus' face along with a stickman body appears in front of them saying, "I choose myself." This time I only drew one character for Asmodeus, like in the initial scene, which is Kaveh. I could see him making a game like this in a way. What Genshin characters would you see making a game where you date multiple versions of them? While Kaveh isn't the most confident, kind of narcissistic person like Asmodeus is, I think with a later redraw it will also make it clearer why I chose Kaveh here. But as I said, I would be super interested to hear what character you think would just have the confidence and self-love to do this. For the next redraw, we still keep the shining background and we go back to the beginning, to the Leviathan, Barbatos and Diavolo scene. You may remember that Diavolo showed up in a Ruri-chan cosplay here. The scene I redrew would be a scene after this, including Ayato as Diavolo as Ruri-chan. Then we have Barbatos as Toma as Azukitan, Ruri-chan's companion, which is a pancake filled with red bean paste. Next we have a scene where Beelzebub eats a lot of ice cream. Since you're able to win something Beelzebub really wants to have when you buy and eat one specific ice cream. Here I drew Chongyun as the person that is eating the ice cream, which turns out to have a burning flavor. In the episode, Mammon says that the ice creams have various flavor, such as this burning hot one, and there's also a electrocuting one or one that has no flavor. I also drew Mammon for the next redraw of this scene who asks Beelzebub, hey, you are right there? For this I drew in Bennett. I thought it would be a nice idea since I could imagine him selling ice cream, which for some reason have these weird side effects. The one that Chongyun first ate having a burning flavor also is a nice hint to how Chongyun always has to eat ice cream to keep himself from overheating, but here the ice cream has the opposite effect. Now for the next scene, which is a continuation from the scene of Asmodeus saying, I choose myself in the game he created. The person that Asmodeus asked to play this game was Solomon. He mentioned that they have a pact and that's why he wants Solomon to play it. And as Asmodeus before I drew in Kaveh, while for Solomon here I drew in El Haytham. I just thought Kaveh asking El Haytham to play a dating sim-like game with him in it would be a nice idea. And maybe that's a way Kaveh would hint at some feelings he has, or do you think he would be more straightforward? Also the idea of El Haytham secretly or not secretly being interested in a dating sim with Kaveh in it would be interesting to me. Now for the last redraw, Beelzebub saying I'll fix this up too in an episode where he is stranded on an island, the same episode from before where I drew him on a boat as Kazuha. This time as someone fixing something up, I thought of Mika, as he is a very helpful person. And that's it. Wait, what's this? Time for bonus redraws. These are bonus redraws because they are from the commentary episodes in the Obey Me anime, where the voice actors watch the anime and comment on this. The first one here would be where Belphegor, Asmodeus and Beelzebub start a fire. For this I drew in Ether, Bennett and Razor. I could just see Bennett and Razor getting caught up in an accident and Ether also being there to witness it. The scene here is from the episode where I drew Lucifer saying, I'm gonna do to you what you did to my ship. Beelzebub, Belphegor and Asmodeus train and accidentally push the ship from the table. As they talk about who should talk to Lucifer, trying to avoid this, they set the carpet on fire. The next bonus scene would be from an episode in which Lucifer takes charge of everything while him and some of his brothers go on a camping trip. Here the commentary says maybe it's his pride but he doesn't forgive half measures. And as characters who I could see wanting to take charge like this would be Riothusly or Nouvelet. Who do you think would fit better here? As a final bonus redraw, we have a scene from the Detective Satan episodes. Here the commentary says what Satan also says in the episode, which would be, I am the culprit. In the episode, Satan realizes he himself is the culprit who ate the pudding. After blaming Asmo at first, he then confidently admits he's the culprit. A detective admitting he's a culprit, that's rare. And as characters for this, I drew in Liney at first. With him being a mischievous magician, this fit to me. Another mischievous character I drew in here would be Kaya. After this, Venti, and finally Wanderer. I could see all of them playing pranks like this. Which character do you think fits the best here? Also, including this as last scene is kind of memorable to me, as I remember seeing this scene as one of my first introductions to Obey Me in a Satan edit. That edit was really memorable to me. When I think of Obey Me, it's one of the first things that comes to my mind. I'm really grateful for all those editors creating amazing edits of characters. And that's it for the redraws. Which one did you like most? Have you watched the Obey Me anime? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, since I myself tend to enjoy sorting characters in general a lot, thinking more about their personalities and imagining what they would be like in alternative universes. I also sorted all male Genshin characters too. For one, the 7 deadly sins, which one they would most likely commit, and then to the Obey Me characters, brothers, looking more into the personality and not the sin the brothers represent. If you have any ideas about this as well, leave a comment. I love to discuss these things in more detail. If you enjoyed the video, leaving a like and subscribing for more Genshin Impact videos and anime art would mean a lot to me. You can also check out my Patreon for screen recorded process videos, time lapses and full resolution images of my art. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, bye!